Hello, my name is TaTyana Leonard, and I am one of our campus pastors at Azusa Pacific University, and I also serve at Light and Life West in Long Beach. I grew up in a Christian family. We literally lived across the street from my home church, and so we would wait till the very last minute to arrive at church. But just growing up in that church home, it really introduced me to some solid teaching and people who loved well. And so from Sunday school classes to just getting to know some women who were dynamic and they really filled gaps in our family, to the point where I asked one of my Sunday school teachers to become my godmother. She just loved so well, and I was impressed by how she loved God, like in and out of season, not just at church, but she just really loved well. And so from a very early age, I was able to see some great examples of worship, of solid teaching, and people who loved our community and loved the children in our community. And then from that point on, I continued to serve God just throughout my youth. And in my freshman year in undergrad at Oregon State University, that's where I just began to study scripture and fell in love with scripture. I found a Domino's deal that had where we could get cheap pizza on Sunday nights. And so I ordered pizza and invited my friends over, and we just explored scripture together. And from that point on, I started to host Bible study in my dorm room, and like ministry literally began from that point on. And as I was finishing up the Gospel of Matthew, I heard a still voice that said, "TaTyana," as I read, "Go therefore and make disciples." And I just knew that that's what I needed to do. I didn't know what it meant to go therefore. I didn't know who were the disciples that I would be helping to make, but I just knew that that was the call that was specifically on my life. It was so cool to be able to see full circle how I started ministry literally in my dorm room, and starting with my teammates and then other athletes on campus. And so after graduating and being done playing softball, I moved back to Los Angeles and started to serve for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and was able to host a lot of campus Bible studies in the city of LA. So I had 8 different high schools where we would host Bible studies at lunch, and just was able to introduce the gospel of Christ to these high school students. And as I just wanted to go deeper, so it was a very evangelistic ministry where we were able to introduce others to Christ and try to get them just embedded into a church home. And I got to a point where I just really wanted to go deeper and start to equip people for ministry, and the opportunity to serve at Azusa Pacific opened up. And now I have this great privilege to really sow into the next generation of Christian leaders. And so it's such an amazing opportunity to equip, come alongside, and encourage this generation of ministers and just Christian workers that are going to go out into the world and impact the world for Christ. While serving at Azusa Pacific University, I came in contact with colleagues who were a part of the Free Methodist Church. I actually hadn't heard of the tradition before serving at APU, and the pastors that I serve alongside were just dynamic. They had heart for women, they had heart for justice, they had just the way that they navigated life. It wasn't in rigidness. It was allowing experience and reason, and just allowing us to really use all that God has equipped us to use to navigate life and also understand scripture and God's standards. And so when I was in a time of transition, I was exploring traditions that affirmed me as a woman, but also had a heart similar to mine for justice, a heart similar to mine for compassionate compassionate and convictional living. And so as I started to search through that, I started to explore the Free Methodist Church and what were the local churches in our area with my family. And so when we were exploring a new church home, it was actually the week where everything shut down in LA County. And so we started to explore online, and what Light and Life West was offering online was still just so refreshing and spirit-filled, where our family continued to endure online only, and we found ways to just really get embedded in the community through the virtual small groups. And so it just felt like it was a great fit for us, where it met our convictions, but it also met our heart for compassion when it comes to some of these really difficult issues that our world is grappling with, when it comes to justice, when it comes to women, when it comes to really navigating and living out the gospel of Christ in a messy world. And so I love the freedom that's actually encouraged in the Free Methodist tradition, where all of the churches don't look the same. And so that's another thing that I love, how the congregations are able to serve their communities and have their own heartbeat and personality, but still be rooted in the truth of Scripture, and also just a strong tradition of understanding Scripture in the world.